Let's talk coffee prices. Recent headlines in the coffee world have highlighted some very interesting data regarding coffee prices. What's been revealed is that the price per cup of coffee in Australia is among the lowest in the world. While this might come as a good news for consumers, it does raise a certain number of concerns for the industry as a whole, and in particular for cafe owners, coffee producers, but also coffee roasters. For the better part of the last decade, the demand for low coffee prices is simply something that Aussie cafes have had to absorb. But with inflation at an all-time high, it's becoming to pose a challenge for cafe owners to stay afloat. Naturally, many operators have turned to cutting costs in order to maintain profit margin, and often at the expense of quality. But while this may seem like a feasible quick fix, its long-term ramifications are detrimental not just to the business itself, but to the industry as a whole. This poor cycle of consumerism means that cafes will never truly be able to thrive and set a price that actually reflects the costs associated with running a successful business. In this video, we're going to shed light on our newly devised calculator, which allows you to compare different scenarios with different coffee pricing and see how that affects the bottom line. So let's get into it now. So as you can see, the calculator offers an overview of 3 different scenarios comparing coffee prices, volume sold, and the cost of goods sold as well. So for the sake of simplicity for this simulation, we assume that the cafe is exclusively selling regular, dine-in, full cream milk-based coffees. Now, for the first scenario, our current scenario, we took a very example of a cafe doing 30 kilos of coffee per week, paying $30 a kilo and dosing at 22 grams and selling coffee for $4.50, which seems to be the average across the board for cafes in Australia. And now you can see how many cups they would be serving per week. So 2,273. And you can see the cost of goods sold associated with the product that they're selling. But now let's look at scenario 1. If the cafe decides to go for a cheaper blend, so still doing 30 kilos a week, cheaper blend paying $27 a kilo, and keeping the same dose, keeping the same milk, keeping the same selling price, how much money would they be saving? And with this calculator, we can see that in 1 week, this cafe would be saving about $90 a week, which is close to $5,000 a year. So not a negligible amount of money, but not huge either. Almost $5,000 a year, not too bad. But let's say that now they are actually going for a much cheaper option. They're going for a coffee that's $24 a kilo. They're now saving $180 a week, which is almost $10,000 a year. That is a significant amount of money. However, what's likely going to happen is that with a cheaper coffee, the quality of coffee is going to go down, and you're extremely likely to find similar quality at 20% cheaper from another coffee supplier. And what might happen is that we end up losing a few customers with this cheaper coffee. And if we lose 10 customers a day, or if we're making 10 coffees less per day, that means that we'll go down to 1 kilo per week, approximately, with single shot espresso. So now let's look at what would happen if our volume was to go down to 29 kilos a week. We were making about 76 coffees less per week. And that means that in this scenario, this is not a profitable operation. We're now losing $113 per week, which is almost $6,000 per year. So a cheaper coffee, but with lost volume, is a negative move for this cafe. But now let's look at what if we were doing the opposite and paying more per kilo. Let's say we're going to go extreme and pay $36 a kilo, keeping the same data, and that's a significant jump in price, 20% more. We can see that if everything stays the same, we're going to be paying $180 more per week, and we're going to be losing almost 10K per year. So not a positive move. However, if our volume is increasing because we're using a high quality coffee, which is the assumption with specialty coffee, the better your coffee, the more customers you get, we can see that if we increase by 1 kilo per week, selling at the same price and paying substantially more per kilo of coffee, we're now making more money. We're making $100 more per week, which is $5,000 per year. But let's say that was now 32 kilos, so 2 more kilos per week. We're now making 20K extra per year, just with that extra added volume, even by paying 20% more for our kilo of coffee. And we can even make a scenario where we stay at 30 kilos per week, but we're able to now increase the price slightly by 20 cents because of the high quality of coffee. We're now making almost $15,000 more per year, which is a positive move for this cafe. So there's a lot that we can see with this calculator. We can play with the numbers as well. We could look at what would happen if we were to decrease the dose, what would happen if we would change our milk supplier, and you can see different scenarios this way. Now, there's no way of knowing for sure what would happen if we changed to a different coffee or if we were to put the prices up. What we do know though is that specialty coffee relies on the assumption that the better your product, the more successful you're going to be and the more customers you will have. Price elasticity, which is how the demand for a product responds to a change in its price, can be very difficult to evaluate. And because this is something difficult to predict, this is why we like to run multiple scenarios to have an idea of what might be happening with these changes. Now that you've seen the numbers, we're hoping that this might empower you to be charging the right price, but also to be confident in your coffee offering. This calculator is completely free and it's available for download on our website. So head to zestcoffee.com.au to get your hands on it.